Most people think that once the divorce papers are signed, the worst is behind them. The arguments are over, the decisions are made, and now it's time to start fresh. But what if I told you the real damage doesn't come during the divorce? It comes after, when you realize what you forgot to protect. Because financial loose ends don't disappear when the ink dries. They show up months later as surprise bills, tax mistakes, frozen assets, or credit hits you never saw coming. And by then, it's too late to fix most of it. The truth is, divorce isn't just emotional. It's a legal contract that locks in your financial future, whether you're ready or not. And most people walk away without finalizing key decisions that could cost them thousands, or even destroy their stability. In this video, we're going to talk about 8 financial choices you absolutely must finalize before you sign any settlement contract. These aren't suggestions. They're safeguards. Because if you miss even one, the consequences could follow you for years. Stick around until the end, because what you don't know could cost you everything you've worked for. Let's get into it. Imagine this. You and your ex agree that they'll keep the house and take over the mortgage. It's written into the divorce decree, seems fair, and you move on. But 3 months later, you get a call from the bank saying the payment's late, and your credit score just dropped 80 points. Why? Because your name is still on the loan. And as far as the lender's concerned, nothing has changed. Divorce doesn't break a financial contract. You have to take specific steps to remove yourself. If your name is tied to a mortgage, car loan, or any other joint debt, you're still legally responsible, no matter what the court order says. That means if your ex misses even one payment, the damage hits you too. The only way to fully protect yourself is to refinance the loan into their name alone, have them sell the asset, or pay it off completely. Some people make the mistake of just trusting that their ex will handle it. But trust doesn't protect your credit. Paperwork does. And this isn't just about credit scores. If your ex defaults completely, collectors can, and will, come after you. You could be sued, have wages garnished, or even be forced into paying off a loan for something you no longer own. So before you sign that final agreement, go through every joint debt and ask, is my name still attached? Because if it is, you're still on the hook. And what comes next could be even worse. Most people assume that once alimony or child support is agreed upon in court, it's locked in for life. But here's the catch. Without a clear income verification clause, your ex can adjust their earnings to lower payments over time. And yes, it happens more often than you'd think. Some quit high-paying jobs and take lower ones on paper. Others suddenly become self-employed and conveniently start showing lower income. And if you don't have protections built in, there's not much you can do about it later. Here's where people get blindsided. The court uses current income to determine support, but if your agreement doesn't include a clause requiring regular proof of income, your ex can quietly let their earnings drop, and your payments right along with them. What you need is built-in language that mandates updated income disclosures every year, or whenever there's a material change in employment. That way, if they start funneling money through a side business or stop working altogether, you're legally positioned to contest it. Even better, some people include a minimum income assumption clause, stating that if the paying spouse quits voluntarily, support will still be based on their prior earning capacity. That one line can save you from years of manipulation. Because once the settlement is signed, chasing support adjustments becomes a slow, uphill legal process. So ask yourself this before agreeing to any amount. What happens if their income suddenly drops next year? If your agreement doesn't already have the answer built in, you're leaving the door wide open for abuse, and you may not see it coming until your financial cushion is already gone. Here's a mistake that feels harmless, until it turns your entire settlement upside down. It happens when one spouse agrees to waive future claims to each other's retirement accounts, thinking the accounts are already separate or too complicated to split. But here's what they don't realize. Many of these accounts were built during the marriage, which means they're legally considered marital property. And waiving your rights without a proper valuation means you could be giving up tens, sometimes hundreds, of thousands of dollars without even knowing it. Retirement assets aren't just 401(k), S and IRAs. They can include pensions, stock options, executive bonus plans, and even government benefits. The catch: most of them require special legal documents, like a QDRO, a Qualified Domestic Relations Order, to divide them correctly. If you don't have one in place before the divorce is finalized, it can be nearly impossible to go back and fix. And if your ex empties the account or retires early, there's nothing left for you to claim. Some people agree to trade retirement assets for things that seem more immediate, like keeping the house or avoiding monthly alimony. But houses come with taxes and upkeep. Retirement accounts grow with time. $1 today isn't the same as $1 in 20 years. And by the time you realize what you gave up, the window to challenge it is closed. So before you waive anything, get a full breakdown of what retirement benefits exist, what portion is considered marital, and what legal steps are needed to claim your share. Because this isn't just about today's money, it's about securing your future. And once that opportunity is gone, there's no getting it back. There's a quiet trap hidden inside many divorce agreements, and it starts with two simple words: life insurance. Most people overlook it entirely, thinking it's just a technicality. But if your ex is ordered to pay alimony or child support, and they suddenly pass away without a policy in place, your income disappears overnight. No payments. No fallback. No legal recourse. And just like that, your financial stability vanishes. Life insurance isn't about greed. It's about protecting what's already been agreed upon. If your ex is the one responsible for ongoing payments, their death shouldn't become your crisis. That's why savvy divorce attorneys push for a clause requiring the paying spouse to carry a life insurance policy, with you named as the irrevocable beneficiary, for the full amount of any remaining financial obligations. And not just carry it, but show annual proof that it still exists and hasn't been altered or allowed to lapse. Here's where people get caught off guard. Even if the court includes a vague mention of life insurance, it doesn't mean the policy will be enforced unless it's properly structured. Your ex could name a new spouse as beneficiary, lower the coverage, or cancel the policy altogether. Without safeguards, you might not even know it's gone until it's too late. So don't just assume it's in place. Demand the paperwork. Verify the details. And make sure the policy's ownership and beneficiary status can't be changed without your written consent. Because one overlooked sentence in your agreement could be the difference between security and scrambling in the face of tragedy. And once that moment hits, there are no second chances. One of the most overlooked and financially devastating mistakes in divorce is failing to understand the tax consequences of what you're agreeing to. Because not all assets are created equal. A $100,000 house isn't the same as a $100,000 retirement account. And if you're not thinking about how taxes will hit you after the settlement is signed, you could walk away with far less than you think. Here's what happens. One spouse keeps the home, thinking they've won something valuable. But the home comes with property taxes, maintenance, and eventual capital gains when it's sold. Meanwhile, the other spouse takes a brokerage account, already liquid, already appreciating, and walks away with cash that's easier to access, with fewer strings attached. On paper, the division looks equal. In real life, it's anything but. And it doesn't stop there. Retirement accounts like 401(k)s and traditional IRAs are taxed as income when withdrawn, often years later. If you're given half of your ex's 401(k) in the settlement and assume it's yours to use freely, you'll get hit with a surprise tax bill the moment you touch it. That lump sum suddenly shrinks, and there's no fixing it after the fact. Same goes for alimony. It used to be tax deductible for the payer and taxable for the receiver, until the rules changed. Now, if your agreement was signed after 2019, alimony payments aren't deductible at all, and you don't pay taxes on them either. But if you don't structure the deal correctly, someone still loses. So before you agree to anything that looks fair, ask, what will this be worth after taxes? Will I owe on this money later? Is this cash now, or a liability I haven't considered? Because once the ink is dry, tax surprises don't care how hard you fought for that equal split. They just show up, quietly draining your future. There's one financial detail that most people don't even think about until it's far too late. Health insurance. In the middle of dividing homes, debts, and retirement accounts, many overlook the fact that divorce can instantly strip you of coverage, especially if you were on your spouse's employer-provided plan. And when that happens, the consequences aren't just expensive, they can be catastrophic. Let's say you've been on your spouse's health insurance for years. The divorce is finalized, and the very next month, you're no longer eligible. Sure, COBRA coverage might be an option, but it comes with a hefty price tag. Often 2 to 3 times what you were paying before. And worse, COBRA is temporary. Once it runs out, you're on your own, navigating the private marketplace or trying to qualify for government subsidies. all while possibly dealing with new medical issues and reduced income. Now imagine trying to negotiate alimony or asset division without knowing how much your new health insurance will cost. It's not just a line item. It could be thousands of dollars a year that no one accounted for. And if you're close to retirement age but not yet eligible for Medicare, that gap can be financially devastating. This is why smart divorce planning includes a strategy for post-divorce health coverage. That might mean negotiating for additional spousal support to cover premiums, staying on COBRA while exploring other options, or building a health savings fund from other assets in the settlement. But ignoring it altogether? That's a mistake you'll feel every single month. So before you sign anything, ask yourself, what's my plan for health insurance the day after this divorce is finalized? Because losing your marriage shouldn't also mean losing access to the care you need. And if you don't prepare, it absolutely can. One of the sneakiest financial traps in divorce isn't about what you divide. It's about what you forget to close. Joint accounts, credit cards, shared lines of credit. These are time bombs if left unattended. Because even after the court says you're legally separated, the financial system still sees you as connected. Unless you take action. Here's the reality. If your ex racks up debt on a joint credit card you forgot to close, you're still on the hook. If their payments are late, your credit score takes the hit too. Divorce doesn't magically wipe away your name from financial documents. Lenders don't care what your settlement says. If your name is on it, you're responsible. It goes even deeper. Old utility accounts, shared auto loans, even forgotten subscriptions. If they're linked to both names, they can quietly drain your bank account or damage your credit without you realizing it. And by the time you catch it, your hands may be tied. You'll spend months disputing charges, begging institutions to remove your name, or paying off balances that were never supposed to be yours in the first place. That's why one of the most important post-divorce moves is a financial cleanse. Sit down, list every account, every login, every piece of shared financial history. Close what you can. Transfer what must stay open. Get your name off anything tied to theirs, because no matter how amicable things feel now, people change, and trust doesn't pay your credit report back. Think of it like changing the locks on your financial life. Because if you leave one door open, even by mistake, you're inviting future chaos. Before the settlement is finalized, make sure every joint account is dealt with, because cleaning up afterward is always harder than protecting yourself now. There's one final financial decision that often gets pushed aside, either because it feels too uncomfortable or too far in the future. Updating your estate documents. But here's the cold truth. If you don't change your beneficiaries, your will, and your power of attorney after a divorce, your ex could still be the person in charge if something happens to you. And that's not just awkward. It can be devastating. Let's start with beneficiary designations. These override your will. So even if your divorce agreement says you're no longer responsible for each other, if your ex is still listed on your life insurance, retirement accounts, or pension plan, they may legally inherit those funds when you die. Not your children. Not your new partner. Them. And most financial institutions don't check your divorce status. They go by what's on file. No updates. No questions asked. Then there's your will. If it still says your ex should handle your estate or receive certain assets, that will stand unless it's rewritten. Even worse, if your ex is still listed as your medical or financial power of attorney, they could be the one making decisions for you in a crisis, whether you want them to or not. These are not just paperwork details. They are legal permissions. And if you don't fix them before or immediately after your divorce, you're leaving massive loopholes that can't always be undone later. So before that final signature goes on your settlement, take a hard look at every estate document you have. Update your will. Change your power of attorney. Review every account with a beneficiary. Because divorce isn't just the end of a relationship. It's the beginning of a completely new legal identity. And if you don't protect that new version of yourself, the past can creep back in when you least expect it. Now that you know the 8 financial decisions that must be finalized before signing any divorce settlement, take a breath and take a hard look at where you stand. Because what you sign today doesn't just shape the next few months. It shapes your future, your credit, your retirement, your legal identity, and in many cases, your ability to rebuild with confidence. It's easy to think the divorce decree will handle everything, but as you've seen, the real dangers lie in the fine print, in the forgotten accounts, and in the emotional desire to just get it over with. That's exactly where costly mistakes happen. Mistakes that don't just hurt financially, but can affect your mental health, your relationships, and your ability to move forward cleanly. But here's the good news. Every single one of these decisions is within your control. You don't need a courtroom or a lawyer to take ownership of your financial future. What you do need is clarity, awareness, and the courage to slow down, even when you're desperate to be done. So ask yourself, have I protected my retirement? Have I cleaned up every joint account? Am I certain my estate documents reflect my new life, not my old one? Because once that agreement is signed, going back is far more complicated than getting it right today. If you're still watching, that tells me you're serious about protecting yourself. And I respect that. Leave a comment below with the number 8 to let me know you stayed to the end. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. It helps us continue creating honest, research-backed content to support people going through some of life's hardest transitions. Thanks for being here. And remember, the way you exit a marriage says everything about how you'll start your next chapter. Make it smart. Make it solid. And most of all, make it yours.